Day 1078 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 844,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,140 in the past day. Then as for hardware, 9 tanks, 12 APVs, 52 artillery, and another successful oil depot strike on Russian territory. So straight to the map we go, because overnight another wave of crippling strikes on Russia's oil industry continued. This time at the Krasnodar-Albashneft oil depot, 240 kilometers or 150 miles from the front lines of the SMO, with fires that raged up until 8 AM local time. Uploaded media from Telegram also showed the burning oil tanks. Now the cause? Absolutely 100% more debris, as the region's governor stated that the drone wreckage fell on a tank containing residual petroleum products, playing down the event even further. Interestingly, Russia's defense ministry themselves did not acknowledge any drone interceptions over Krasnodar, instead reporting down UAVs in Kursk and the Belgorod oblasts. Now, as for this depot itself, it contains a total of 8 tanks on site, including 3 large and 5 medium-sized tanks, with what constitutes a large tank being one with a capacity exceeding 50,000 barrels, which is just over 2 million gallons and just under 8 million liters. And although the extent of the damage is not immediately clear, Ukrainian intelligence has surely already picked out a number of subsequent targets with which to continue this effective campaign against Russia's vital oil infrastructure. Then, as for a follow-up on the recent strike on Gazprom's gas processing plant in Russia's Astrakhan region from Monday night, the latest update for this facility states that the production has been halted for at least several months. Which is important because it helps meet Russia's domestic gas demand while also supporting export contracts. Also noting that the enormity of the Astrakhan gas fields just adjacent are significant. But without a nearby processing plant to tackle the high sulfur content, making it initially unusable, thus requiring a nearby processing plant for the effective treatment, so any disruption to the facility renders the entire field inoperable for a period. Then headed across to the Ukrainian map today, and starting in Luhansk, as units of the Russian army positioned here have reportedly been getting back into some of their old habits again, with these further renewed reports about specialized personnel being repurposed as frontline assault troops. Drone operators, electronic warfare specialists, and even combat medics are being thrown into the fray near Novohorivka, a hamlet that has become a focal point of failed Russian offensives. And further to that, the reports indicate that these specialists are being sent to the front with little preparation, forced to charge under fire from entrenched Ukrainian positions. Now, this practice was supposedly banned already due to heavy casualties in the past, but now appears to have been quietly reinstated. The desperation is quite striking. When a military starts sacrificing its technical experts and medical staff, it signals a severe manpower crisis. Such measures not only jeopardize the immediate effectiveness of the Russian army, but also threaten its long-term operational integrity. Then headed further down the map, as a tank and a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle of the AFU's 100th Mechanized Brigade attacked enemy positions in the Toretsk direction, and nearly done so point blank, smoking up the place, quite literally. Then headed further down the map as the Ukrainian military destroys another Russian assault tank in the Pokrovsk direction. Just moments prior, the crew had to abandon, realizing the tank was a loss. Also somewhere in Donetsk, there was the elimination of a Russian assault group that failed to control the situation and to oust the Ukrainian forces positioned indoors. 1 week of training really shows. Now, usually the situation is reversed, where we see a lot of the Russian elements getting smoked out of their holes, but in either circumstance, the outcome is largely the same. And understanding that the Russian soldiers might only have a week or two for training or less, followed by getting sent to the front, where they come up against a much better trained and much better equipped opposing force. The only pathway Russia can really take forward for the majority of their forces is by a numbers game, utilizing subpar forces that contain no barrier to entry for a quick one-way ticket to the front lines. Then, taking a look on the wider map today, so Ukrainian operators of the Horizon Group from the 81st Air Assault Brigade intercepted a rare and expensive Merlin reconnaissance UAV, a Russian drone estimated to cost anywhere between $300,000 and $800,000 US, depending on the configuration. The drone was flying at a relatively high altitude when it was taken down and managed to deploy its safety chute after the intercept, drifting down into Ukrainian territory for extraction. Then also on the map and somewhere in the north, a Ukrainian drone operator picks up a parked Russian drone by means of its equipped claw extender underneath. At this stage, I fully expect at a certain point we'll see the Swiss Army knives of quadcopters flying around, ones that include multiple droppable munitions, including separate incendiary munitions, claws, as seen per right here, flamethrower modules, anti-jamming modules, thermal and night vision, signal boosters, and signal spoofers for enemy drones, fake GPS beacons, also perhaps smokescreen deployments, and a lot more of these optional components, just depending on the mission profile. In fact, some of the AFU's offerings are already multi-equipped to some level. Then also on the map, a Ukrainian FPV destroys a Russian Ural truck somewhere on the front. Then also followed by another destroyed Russian truck, a Kamaz, with some of these video and photo takers seeming a bit too close for safety or comfort. Then headed farther afield on the map, the Azerbaijan airliner that took on fire over Russian skies last December, followed by its crash in Kazakhstan, has now shown that in follow-up to the investigation, it was struck by a Russian Pantsir S missile. Now, back when it happened, at the time of the incident, Russia apologized for the event, but stopped short of admitting any fault, blaming the event on birds, mechanical failures, and even a Ukrainian drone initially. On top of that, they even requested full access and to take over control of the site and investigation, which Kazakh authorities would not allow. Obviously, we can see why now. So what's likely to happen next? Well, it's expected that the Russian government will continue to deny any involvement, not admitting fault, doubling down on those denials, which will in turn increase further regional distrust of their country from the likes of Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and others. This will then encourage these post-Soviet nations to further disengage from Moscow, and some of them may, of their own volition, seek closer ties with the West. In fact, Azerbaijan has already done that. Then headed straight across to some Russian military mobilization blunder segments today, with too many to show. So in a quick rapid fire segment, here we go. Because in a most recent shocking revelation, in an area on the map, over 1,000 Russian soldiers, sick, injured, or simply refusing to fight, are being held in makeshift camps. Chained to their bunks, as seen here, the wounded men are denied medical treatment and face the grim prospect of being sent back to the front as part of a penal regiment. Video evidence shows appalling conditions, men with missing fingers, the elderly, and those on crutches, all confined and cut off from communication. The Russian army has consistently reached new lows of what it deems acceptable in both its treatment of its own soldiers and what lengths it will go to fill the gaps on the front lines. And none of it looks like it's headed in anything of a better direction for their army. Then to a quick second blunder related in its own way, as Russia's Ministry of Defense has quietly introduced changes to its military medical examination regulations, no surprises here, making it easier for conscripts with mental illnesses and certain medical conditions to be deemed fit for service. These amendments were published in December, with the public discussion, so to speak, ending a few weeks later, and without official announcement. This is the 2025 Russian Professional Army. In fact, some of the living beings aren't even human, because headed across to a funny now, and in a bizarre throwback to imperial times, there's some new reports alongside photos and audio bites on the topic, where the Russian Defense Ministry themselves gave one of the Russian units a donkey instead of a normal vehicle to bring ammunition to the front. And this is information as sourced by a popular Russian Telegram channel. And with the audio bite, you can see here that the ones received with the donkey are quite upset with, apparently, there's a real problem with transportation because the Ural trucks are burning, as stated on the audio feed. So now they have a donkey to support their platoon instead. We also saw some footage of horses being used to travel their riders to the SMO. This is all getting out of hand really quite quickly. So if you are a Russian commander who has been fighting on the Eastern Front, wondering whether grinding your vehicles against the Ukrainian front line for the past year is finally paying off, worry not, the Kremlin has dispatched the cavalry and the donkey logistics support. Oh my. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for all of the continued ongoing support. I really do appreciate it. Helps the channel keep going, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.